When people hear the title, 4 positions, that make him lose control, the first thing their mind usually jumps to is technique. They start thinking in terms of physical moves, tricks, or what they saw in some magazine article that promised to unlock the deepest secrets of attraction. But here's the truth. Before you even think about the positions themselves, you need to understand the mindset that makes those positions powerful in the first place. Because if you don't get that part right, you can try every move in the book and it still won't have the effect you want. What actually makes him lose control is not the shape your body takes. It's the energy you carry in that moment. It's the confidence behind the move. It's the intention that radiates through your eyes, your touch, your expression. That's the difference between a position that feels like you're just going through the motions and a position that makes him forget every thought in his head except you. Think about it. Someone can lean in for a kiss, and if they're hesitant, nervous, or distracted, that kiss won't feel electric. But if they lean in with focus, with presence, with this quiet confidence that says, "I know you want this as much as I do," suddenly the exact same action becomes unforgettable. The position didn't change. The energy did. That's why when you're with him, what will truly make him lose control isn't whether you're in the so-called right place, but whether you bring the right presence to that place. Now, presence doesn't mean acting. It doesn't mean trying too hard or putting on a performance. In fact, performance is what kills the moment. Presence is about being completely immersed in what you're feeling and allowing him to feel it too. It's the difference between doing something to get a reaction versus doing it because you're actually enjoying it. When he senses that you're not self-conscious, that you're not in your head worrying about whether you look perfect, but instead you're in your body enjoying the connection, enjoying him, that's when he starts to lose control. Because your freedom gives him permission to let go too. Men may not always admit it, but they crave those moments when they can surrender. They spend so much of their day holding it together, trying to be in control, trying to project strength. But in intimacy, what shakes them to their core is when they feel like they don't have to think, they don't have to plan, they don't have to control anything. When you step into a moment with energy that says, "I'm here, I'm confident, I know what I'm doing and I love it," that's when he drops his guard. That's when he lets go. And here's the beautiful part. You don't need to fake that confidence. You don't need to pretend to be someone you're not. Confidence doesn't come from being flawless. It comes from embracing yourself fully in that moment. Even if your hair isn't perfect, even if you're not moving like someone in a movie. What makes it irresistible is that you own it. You let him see that you're comfortable in your own skin. And that's far more intoxicating than anything else. So before we even get into the specific positions, remember this: the real power lies in how you carry yourself. A single glance, a shift in tone, a moment of taking control with absolute certainty. That's what makes him lose his breath. That's what makes him feel like he's with someone unforgettable. Without that energy, the position is just a pose. With it, the simplest move becomes the most powerful thing he's ever experienced. Eye contact is one of those things people underestimate until they've actually experienced its full effect. You can be in any position with someone, but the moment your eyes lock in a way that says, "I see you, I want you, and I'm not afraid to show it," the entire dynamic changes. It's not just physical anymore. It becomes emotional, psychological, even spiritual. Men, as much as they love touch, crave that feeling of being seen. And when you hold his gaze, especially in a moment of closeness, it's like you've stripped away every layer of control he thought he had. Think about what happens in the brain during eye contact. It bypasses words, it bypasses logic, and it hits something much deeper. When your eyes are locked on his, he isn't thinking about what's going to happen tomorrow or what he has to do next week. He's pulled into the moment, completely disarmed. And that's exactly when he loses control. When he feels like he can't escape your presence, not because you're forcing him to stay, but because he doesn't want to look away. That intensity builds a charge between you that makes even the simplest position feel like the most powerful thing in the world. And let's be clear, eye contact isn't about staring at him like you're trying to win a contest. It's about playing with it, using it with intention. Sometimes it's a direct, unwavering gaze that says, "You're mine right now." Sometimes it's the teasing glance, looking away just long enough to make him crave that connection back. That push and pull is magnetic. It keeps him chasing, even in the most intimate moments, because he feels like he's being invited into something rare. Your undivided attention. There's a vulnerability in eye contact that terrifies and excites men at the same time. When you hold his eyes, you're not hiding. You're saying, "I'm fully here with you, and I'm not afraid for you to see me." That level of honesty is powerful because most of the time people avoid it. We live in a world full of distractions, full of ways to look away and keep things surface level. But when you're in that space with him and your eyes don't flinch, he feels it in a way that words can't explain. It tells him that you're not just physically present, you're emotionally present. And that's what makes him unravel. Men may pretend that they're all about the physical, but eye contact proves otherwise. It shows them that intimacy is as much about connection as it is about touch. The body will always respond to stimulation, but when you add that layer of psychological closeness through the eyes, it multiplies everything. The touch feels stronger, the rhythm feels deeper, and the moment feels unforgettable. What really makes this powerful is how rare it is. Most people don't hold eye contact for more than a second or two. They look away because it feels too exposing. But that's exactly why, when you're the one who can do it, you stand out. He'll remember it because it's not something he gets every day. And the memory of how it made him feel, the rush, the loss of control, the surrender stays with him long after the moment is over. So when we talk about positions, understand that it's not just about where your body is placed. It's about whether your eyes are saying something more. When you're close enough and you hold that gaze, you're communicating without a single word. You can't hide from me. You're mine in this moment. That's the kind of presence that makes him forget himself completely. And that's when you know you've truly made him lose control. There's something irresistible about the moment you take charge because it flips the script completely. Most men walk into intimacy with the unconscious assumption that they're the ones steering the ship. They think they're supposed to lead, to direct, to be the one in control. But the truth is, the moment you decide to step forward and own the frame, you shake that belief to its core. You show him that he doesn't always have to be the one in command, and that experience of surrender is more intoxicating than he'll ever admit out loud. When you take control, you're not just changing the physical position, you're changing the emotional dynamic. You're saying, without words, you can relax. You don't have to figure out what's next. I've got this. And that is magnetic, because deep down, every man craves that break from responsibility. He spends his days making decisions, solving problems, holding everything together. But when he's with you, when you grab the wheel and guide the moment, he feels the thrill of letting go. And in letting go, he loses control in the best way possible. Taking charge doesn't have to mean being aggressive or trying to dominate every second. It's not about overpowering him. It's about surprising him. It's about that moment when he thinks he knows what's coming, but then you flip him, pin him, or simply lean in with authority, and suddenly he's no longer driving the moment. That unpredictability is what floods his system with adrenaline and desire. He's no longer following a script, he's being pulled into your story. And because he doesn't know what you'll do next, his mind stops racing. He's not analyzing or planning, he's just experiencing. That's when he gets lost in you. Confidence is the key here. It's not about doing the perfect move. It's about owning the move you choose. Even something simple like guiding his hands where you want them can be electrifying when you do it with certainty. That small act says, I know what I like, and I'm not afraid to show you. Men are wired to respond to that certainty because it removes guesswork and invites them into a level of connection most people are too shy to offer. And the beauty is you don't have to sustain that control the whole time. In fact, the magic often comes from switching roles. One moment you're letting him lead, the next moment you're flipping it and taking over. That dance between surrender and command keeps him hooked because he never settles into autopilot. He's constantly engaged, constantly chasing, constantly caught off guard by how much you can shift the energy with just one bold move. There's also a deeper layer here. When you take control, you show him that intimacy isn't something being done to you. It's something you're actively creating with him. That makes him feel chosen. It tells him that you're not just there to receive, you're there to participate, to shape the experience. And that level of involvement makes him feel special in a way that's rare. He doesn't just feel like a man satisfying you. He feels like a man being invited into your world, a world where you're confident, powerful, and unapologetic about what you want. So don't be afraid to break the rhythm and flip the power dynamic. Don't be afraid to surprise him with a moment of authority, to take the reins and remind him that control is a two-way street. Because the truth is, when you lead with intention and confidence, you're not just changing the position, you're changing his entire state of mind. And in that space where he's no longer thinking, no longer planning, no longer holding on to control, he's exactly where you want him. Lost in you, undone by you, and unable to forget the way you made him feel. What most people never realize is that control isn't lost in what's predictable. It's lost in what feels new, what catches you off guard, what pulls you out of the script you thought you knew. The unexpected angle is exactly that. It's when you shift the rhythm, change direction, or introduce something unfamiliar that his entire system lights up. Men are creatures of habit, and habit makes them comfortable. But comfort isn't what makes him lose control. Surprise is. The moment he thinks he knows what's coming and you do something different, his breath catches, his body reacts, and suddenly he's not the one calling the shots anymore. Imagine this, he's convinced he knows your next move. Because maybe you've done it a certain way before, maybe he assumes you'll keep the rhythm he's familiar with. And then, instead of doing what he expects, you switch it. You slow down when he anticipates speed, or you change your angle just enough to hit a nerve he wasn't prepared for. In that instant, his body betrays him. He gasps, he grabs, he loses composure. That's the power of the unexpected. You take him out of his head and put him completely in his body. It's not about trying to reinvent every moment or being overly complicated. The smallest changes can create the biggest reactions. Tilt differently. Pause longer than usual. Let silence hang before the next move. These subtle shifts keep him guessing, and guessing keeps him engaged. Because once a man falls into predictability, his mind starts to wander. But when he can't anticipate what you'll do next, he's locked in, eyes on you, completely surrendered to the experience. And let's be honest, unpredictability is exciting for you too. It stops intimacy from becoming routine. It allows you to play, to explore, to break out of patterns that can dull passion over time. When you're willing to experiment, when you're willing to step outside the script, you bring a freshness that reignites desire. He feels it, and you feel it too. That shared curiosity fuels the fire, and the more you explore, the more powerful those moments become. There's also a psychological piece to this. Men like to believe they're in control, that they know how to read you, that they can predict how the moment will unfold. But when you surprise him, you challenge that belief in the most seductive way. You remind him that you're not predictable. You're not a checklist he can tick off. You're an experience, and experiences don't follow rules. That realization makes him respect you more, desire you more, and lose himself in you more deeply. The unexpected angle also carries a kind of playful mischief. It says, "You thought you had me figured out, but you don't." That teasing energy is magnetic because it creates tension. He's hooked on what's next, desperate to know what you'll do, and at the same time thrilled by the fact that he doesn't know. That tension is addictive. It makes the whole moment feel alive, charged with an electricity that routine could never give. So don't underestimate the power of surprise. Don't be afraid to break patterns, to shift directions, to pause when he thinks you'll move, or to move when he thinks you'll pause. Those little twists are what keep him on edge, what stop him from holding on to control, and what pull him deeper into you. Because when a man can't predict you, he can't prepare himself, and when he can't prepare himself, he loses control. That's when you've got him exactly where you want him present, vulnerable and completely undone by the fact that he never saw it coming. There is a unique kind of power in holding someone on the edge, in creating that unbearable tension where you're close enough to give everything, but not quite crossing the line just yet. That's what I mean by the close enough to lose it position. It's the tease, the deliberate delay that drives him insane. Because as much as men love intensity, what truly makes them lose control is anticipation. It's the build-up that makes the release so much more powerful. Think about it. When you give everything instantly, there's no mystery, no suspense. It's like starting a movie at the climax. You skip the part that makes the ending matter. But when you draw it out, when you make him wait, when you let him feel your presence without rushing, you're creating a pressure inside him that he can't contain. Every second of waiting makes the eventual moment stronger. And it's in that waiting where he starts to unravel, because his mind is begging for more even while his body is already overwhelmed. This doesn't mean withholding affection or playing games. It's not about being distant. It's about being intentional. It's about leaning in just close enough for him to feel your breath, but not giving him the kiss right away. It's about letting your hand trace his skin slowly instead of rushing to the obvious places. It's about moving in a way that says, "I could give you everything right now, but I want to savor this, and I want you to savor it too." That restraint is maddening because it shows control. And paradoxically, it's your control that makes him lose his. Men aren't used to being teased with such confidence. They're used to things either escalating quickly or following a predictable rhythm. But when you step in and create that slow, deliberate tension, he feels it in a way that bypasses logic. His body is on fire because you're not just giving him what he wants. You're amplifying what he feels by stretching the moment. You're showing him that pleasure isn't just in the act itself, it's in the space before it happens, in the space where imagination collides with reality. The close enough to lose it position also communicates something deeper. It says you're not desperate, you're not in a hurry, you're in complete control of yourself and the moment. That calm certainty makes him crave you even more because it tells him you know your worth. You're not rushing to prove anything. You're confident enough to let time work in your favor. And that level of self-possession is rare, which is exactly why it's so powerful. When you master this art of closeness without immediacy, you start to notice his reactions changing. His breathing quickens, his hands grip tighter, his focus sharpens completely on you. He's not distracted, he's consumed. And the beauty of this is that it builds intimacy as much as it builds desire. Because while he's waiting, while he's holding on to the edge, he's also aware of how deeply you're in the moment with him. That shared tension bonds you. It becomes something unforgettable for both of you. So don't underestimate the tease. Don't underestimate the pause, the delay, the decision to let him ache for just a little longer. That ache is what makes the eventual connection explosive. That ache is what strips him of control, because he's no longer the one deciding when things happen. You are. And in that surrender, in that hunger that you've built step by step, you've taken him to a place where he's no longer just experiencing you physically. He's lost in you completely, undone by the fact that you held him on the edge until he couldn't take it anymore. When people think about making someone lose control, they often picture big, dramatic gestures. They think it's about pulling off something complex or performing like they're in a movie scene. But the truth is, none of that matters if the connection isn't there. The positions that make him lose control aren't about how flexible you are or how impressive you look. They're about how present you are. They're about whether he feels like, in that moment, you're not performing for him, you're experiencing something with him. Performance creates distance. When you're trying to look perfect, when you're in your head wondering how you appear, you're no longer in the moment, you're observing it. And the second you start observing it, he feels it. He may not be able to articulate it, but he senses the gap. It's like you're there physically but not emotionally, and no matter how or perfect. The position looks, it won't make him lose control because deep down it feels hollow. Connection, on the other hand, is undeniable. It's when you let go of the idea of how it should look and instead dive into how it feels. It's when you stop worrying about whether your hair is messy or whether your movements are smooth and instead tune into what's happening between the two of you. When he feels that you're fully present, that you're not distracted, that you're not trying to impress, something shifts inside him. He feels chosen. He feels like he's not just with someone who's doing intimacy, but with someone who's living it. That presence is what makes him let go of control, because it creates a level of safety where he doesn't have to perform either. And here's the thing, connection doesn't require perfection. It thrives in imperfection. Sometimes it's the laugh you share when something unexpected happens. Sometimes it's the look in your eyes when you catch your breath. Sometimes it's the quiet moment of stillness before you move again. Those are the moments that make everything unforgettable, because those are the moments that feel real. Real is messy, real is raw, real is vulnerable, and real is what makes him addicted. When you approach intimacy like this, you stop treating positions as a checklist and start treating them as opportunities to connect. Each one becomes less about doing it right and more about being fully there. That's why a simple touch, a pause, or even a whisper can sometimes have more impact than the most complicated move. It's not about scale, it's about sincerity. Men might fantasize about certain scenarios, but what they remember, what keeps them hooked, are the moments when they felt completely disarmed by your presence, when they felt like nothing else in the world existed but you. And you don't get that from performance, you get it from being real. You get it from letting your guard down, from allowing yourself to enjoy the moment as much as you want him to enjoy it. That authenticity is magnetic. So remember, making him lose control isn't about becoming someone else. It's about being more of yourself. It's about dropping the mask, stepping out of your head, and letting yourself feel everything fully. Because when you do, he can't help but follow. He mirrors your energy. He gets swept up in your freedom, and he loses himself in the connection you're creating together. That's what leaves a mark. That's what he'll never forget. Not the position itself, but the way you made him feel like the only man in the world.